An ever-growing number of people discover Tolkien's enchanted world of elves, dwarves, and hobbits and the epic stories told in his books. But how many of them know that Tolkien's writing process was also fascinating all by itself, and that the publication of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion was a long and eventful adventure? The Lord of the Rings was the result of over a decade of meticulous work, and another 5 years of resolving publishing issues with the editors, financial hardships, and multiple setbacks, including the incredible story of the unauthorized bestseller American edition. The Silmarillion took no less than 50 years to be released, and the author's relentless efforts for most of the past century. How many trials before readers could finally enter the unique world of Tolkien? Let's have a closer look on this. One of the first reasons for such long writing periods and publication delays is that Tolkien did not write having in mind any publication at first. Unlike many universes specifically designed by their author for the purpose of writing and publishing popular fiction, Tolkien's one remained for a long period a private project. Tolkien began creating his fantasy world in 1917 as he fought during the Great War. It was not until 60 years later that was finally published The Silmarillion and all the mythology on which The Lord of the Rings was based. This was by far the largest task for the author, to create a series of legends that would explain the genesis of his world, like a Bible. No less than 12 volumes relate the shaping of Middle-earth from the origins to the form we are familiar with in The Lord of the Rings. All these stories are totally consistent, one with the other, and everything makes sense because of another special ingredient: linguistics. Tolkien was a philologist and studied ancient languages. He invented his own full-scale languages with their own grammar, vocabulary, characters, scripting, and regional or historical variants. These are really the foundations on which everything else is based, and very solid ones. I think we can say that Tolkien was genuinely surprised when he eventually was offered publishing his work, something he hadn't really considered until then. Tolkien wrote the greater part of The Hobbit during his first 7 years as professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford. By late 1932, he had finished the story and then lent the manuscript to several friends. One of them passed it to Allen and Unwin editors in the years that followed, and by 1937, the book had been accepted for publication. Tolkien was now preparing maps and illustrations. He wrote to the publisher on 17 January of this year. Dear Sir, I am grateful and pleasantly surprised that the drawings for The Hobbit can be used. I leave it in your hands as to the best way of reproducing and using them. Actually, the map with ruins was intended to be folded in Chapter 1, opposite the first mention of it, a piece of parchment rather like a map, towards the end of the chapter. The other map in the home MS came at the end, and the long narrow drawing of Mirkwood was at the beginning. The Elven King's Gate came at the end of Chapter 8, Laketown in Chapter 10. The front gate in Chapter 11, after the description of the adventurer's first sight of it, they could see the dark cavernous opening in a great cliff wall. In considering the matter closer, I see that this concentrates all the maps and pictures, in place or reference, towards the end. This is due to no plan, but occurs simply because I failed to reduce the other illustrations to even passable shape. I was also advised that those with a geographical or landscape content were the most suitable, even apart from my inability to draw anything else. I now enclose 6 more. They are all obviously defective, and quite apart from this may, each or some, present difficulties of reproduction. Also, you may be quite unwilling to consider thus belatedly any more complications and a change of plan. So that I shall be neither pained nor surprised if you return them, all or any. I am yours truly, J.R.R. Tolkien. On 5 February 1937, Tolkien wrote again concerning the reproduction of his illustrations in the book. I approve the rough prints. Reduction has improved all except the trolls. On this, there are 1 or 2 defects, probably simply due to the impression. I have marked them. The thin white outline of one of the background trees is slightly broken. Some of the tiny dots outlining a flame have failed to come out. The dot after trolls also. In the hall at Bag End, I misguidedly put in a wash shadow reaching right up to the side beam. This has of course come out black with disappearance of the key, though not right up to the beam, but the print is, I think, as good as the original allows. Please note these are not serious criticisms. I am still surprised that these indifferent pictures have been accepted at all, and that you have taken so much trouble with them, especially against economics, a factor I had not forgotten, and the reason for my originally forswearing illustrations. In March, Tolkien returned the proofs of The Hobbit to Allen and Unwin, having marked them with a very large number of alterations to the original text. He was told that as a result he might have to pay part of the cost of correction, though the publishers noted that he had devised revisions which would occupy exactly the same space as the original text. With the following letter dated 13 April 1937, he submitted a drawing for the dust jacket, which included a runic inscription. Dear Sirs, I return under separate cover the corrected revises of The Hobbit, complete. I note what you so kindly say about the cost of corrections. I must pay what is just, if required, though I shall naturally be grateful for clemency. Thank you for your trouble and consideration. You will find with the revised proofs a draft of the jacket for your criticism. I discovered, as I anticipated, that it was rather beyond my craft and experience, but perhaps the general design would do. I foresee the main objections. There are too many colors: blue, green, red, black. The 2 reds are an accident, the 2 greens inessential. This could be met, with possible improvement, by substituting white for red and omitting the sun or drawing a line round it. The presence of the sun and moon in the sky together refers to the magic attaching to the door. It is too complicated and needs simplifying. For example, by reducing the mountains to a single color and simplification of the jagged fir trees. In redrawing, the whole thing could be reduced, if you think the runes are attractive. Though magical in appearance, they merely run The Hobbit or There and Back Again, being the record of a year's journey made by Bilbo Baggins, compiled from his memoirs by J.R.R. Tolkien and published by George Allen and Unwin. Yours truly, J.R.R. Tolkien.